the floor so that he can talk about Senate Bill 1383 and about the solid waste program land fee increase. And if you have a question, you can certainly pose that to him at a point wherever he may take a break in his presentation. Okay, Greg, you have the floor.
Thank you. It's been, I've come out to this group before as the road commissioner. I think it's the first time as public works director. So it's been a couple years, and I really, what came up was the questions, and I said, well, it's a good opportunity to get out here and visit. So that's why I took it, and it's good to be out here with you.
We appreciate you coming down. Thank you.
Yeah, and I really mean to try and get out here once a year or so. I really need to. I get out in town and look at the roads and stuff, but to visit with the people here, this is important stuff. And I really do appreciate the opportunity. 1383 is what has spurred all this on, and really what they're trying to do is get organics out of the landfills. And we have a letter here from Greg Wood. He makes lots of good points. And he says, well, why do we care about the organics in the landfills? Other industries have been hit real hard by the state to get rid of methane. The oil industry has been hit hard. Airline industry has been hit hard. Number one generator of methane is landfills. They produce more than any other industry out there. So they target us now. And that's fine. That's something they should be doing. Methane is caused by the decomposition of organic material in an environment that has no oxygen. In other words, when it's buried and it breaks down, you get methane. If you break it down and mix it with oxygen, you get CO2. So are we doing any good by tackling this methane problem? They say methane's 20 to 40 times worse than CO2, so they think so. I'm not here to defend 1383. We're living it. It's a very expensive proposition, horribly expensive to the entire state. Are there better ways of doing it? I like the concept of just flaring it off as we do currently. I think that's a reasonable way of doing it. They don't. They win. They wrote the legislation. So what they're trying to do is have us not put any organic material into the landfill. I mean, that's their overall goal. I think their overall goal is in the next 20 to 50 years, they don't want landfills. It's gonna be tough. The cheapest, easiest thing to do is just go bury the stuff. That's what we've done always, and we can improve, and that's what we're doing here. We'll see if that helps the situation there or not. So to get organics out of the landfill or not put them in there, we have to intercept them in some manner before they get too buried. So what we have done in other locations, Metro Bakersfield especially, there's other communities, I don't know if this area is set up with the 3-cart system already. You got a brown can, a blue can, and a green can. That will be coming. Before I go any further, waste management is now the person that picks up your garbage. How's that working?
She's here.
Pretty good.
She's retired here.
Yeah.
It's working.
Yeah. It's one can.
One
One
can
can
still,
do.
right. It will be changing.
But they tell us they separate it when they get it.
They take it somewhere and process it.
That's what I read somewhere.
That's what Ben's told you.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But we can go on.
So we will be, part of 1383 is anywhere of a certain population density, you will have to go to 3-can system. And there's parts of Rosamond that will be going to that if they're not already. So with that 3 cans, you got a brown can, which will be either black, gray, or brown, that is destined to go into the landfill. That's your garbage that doesn't have any other purpose. You got a green can, which will be your organics, which used to be just brush and grass and tree trimmings. Now will be food, brush, grass, paper, stuff that you used to think maybe we put into the recycled cart. No, and the blue will be recycling, so it'll be even less. Things like cardboard and paper can even go into the green can, if it's an organic bin. So it's in the green can, then what do we do with it? We take it to our facilities, meaning our landfills, We collect it all up in just a truck that's nothing but green can, take it to the landfill, and we process it there. We then go through it. This is why one of the costs is so high. We don't get to just compost it all, because a lot of that won't compost. And so we have to process it, and we get the clean, what I refer to as clean green waste. That's your grass and your trees and your bushes and stuff that will readily compost. We can separate those out, and then we have to ship all those to a compost facility. Part of that, which is left over, I call the dirty green waste. And what do we do with that? That's one of the things that we're looking at, new technologies. We haven't landed on one yet. We've been spending about close to 2 years looking to see what technologies are out there. You're with WMI, they got all kinds of different ones they're using to do this. I don't think industry standard has landed on any one type of thing to do it with yet. But we have to then take that material, the dirty green waste, and process it. We used to be, we just go put it in the landfill. We don't get to do that anymore. That's keeping it out of the landfill. So we have additional transportation costs, a whole lot more processing costs, and it's not just the cost of new facilities. That's really the easy part. That's just a lump sum, we could go borrow money and do it, but it's the ongoing cost of all the extra processing that goes into dealing with the green waste. So if we can, a new technology, there's several different ones out there we've looked at. There are people that take a single can and run it through just a sea of conveyor belts. Drops out, people stand there and do this all day long. Pick out the chicken bones, pick out the garbage, pick out the paper, and put it in different piles. At the end of the day, you got piles of stuff you still got to deal with. That's a very expensive process. We're not a big fan of that. Then we looked at one that is a, what we call it, a gasifier. You put it in there, you put it up to high temperatures, high pressures, and it makes a gas that you can then utilize. A reasonable process. It's fairly slow. You don't get a lot of throughput on it, and it's about $100 million to set up. It's expensive. They have digesters where you take it, grind it up, put it in a slurry, and let bacteria have it. That works too, but they're also very expensive. Digested material, then you still got to do something with it. You can mix it with your good green waste and make a compost out of it. That's basically what they do. But you still got to watch your plastic content and things like that, because our goal in producing material is it's something that people will want to use. People being farmers. You know, we want to develop a product that we can go put on orchards and the farmers aren't going to complain there's a bunch of plastic. So it takes a lot of processing to get the waste stream to that. We looked at a process down in LA, I think it was a WMI facility, that is, I refer to it as a squisher. Garbage goes in, big ram squishes it, goo comes out over here. The solid's still got to be dealt with. The goo goes into the sewer system. Basically, they take it up to the processing plant and run it through a digester. Once again, it is a reasonable way of doing it, but very expensive, a lot of extra transportation costs. So we're trying to find or land on some kind of something that deals with that material that is too dirty to go into compost directly. And we're working on that. I mean, they range anywhere from $30 to $120 million. What we put in our financial plan is a $30 million as a placeholder. As a low end, we're not going to do any more than we have to do that. So let us go through the PowerPoint real quick. You got an abbreviated version. I'll just tell you when I flip a page. 1383 legislation, as you see, it is finalized in November 2020. It had been introduced in 2016, so it took 4 years for them to agree on language and agree on the rules. 50% of the organics out by 2022, 75% by 2025. So we've got a little time to gear up for whatever new technology we're looking at. Next page. We're really trying to come up with a cost-effective process. We have both land use fee, which is tied to residential properties. We have gate fee, which is what the commercial property or commercial businesses pay when they bring their garbage into the landfill. Bin fees are for the people that have haulers come pick up their bins. Then we got hauling costs, and we're trying to come up with a balance because we could, for instance, we could go to, we have 7 landfills and 7 transfer stations throughout the county. We've got a very big county. It's a very hard thing to provide service to all of that. We could go to 3, maybe a Mojave, maybe a Bena, maybe a Shafter. But what happens when we do that is transportation costs go way up. Because we got a community up in Fraser Park. They have a transfer station in Lebec. About 50% of the garbage there is still self-haul. They take it down to their transfer station, they drop it off. It's 3 miles from home, it's no problem. Think of those people having to go from there to Bena every time they want to get garbage gone. That's a long way. What are they gonna do? Throw it out the window. And that's what we're fighting so much. Over here in the desert, I don't even see it as much as I do over in the valley, the illegal dumping. It is just a nightmare over there, and it's mainly a nightmare, I think, tied to homeless. Do you guys have much of a
Horrible
homeless?
situation.
Yes.
In town, out in the desert, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And migrating across the county line from LA.
Is it coming up?
Yeah. One of the things, like I said, we're shorthanded out here. Half the time we got 2 deputies, and
Yeah.
half the time they're not here. Has the county? Have you guys ever looked at? It's a crime for dumping, but in order to arrest somebody, you're either going to make a citizen's arrest, or the deputy's actually going to see them dumping. Have you looked at the idea of making it administrative? Crime/administrative. And if I catch somebody dumping, I take pictures. We have an administrative hearing. Make it like a $5,000 fine where you have to pay it over 10 years but put some bite into it and recoup some of that money. Confiscate trucks. If people are out there dumping, confiscate their truck.
Right. And what, they have adopted a new ordinance where it allows for, I don't know if it's like you say, take a picture and we got them, but like park rangers have the ability to do it and go tag them, because we weren't getting any.
But we don't have law enforcement out here,
We don't
period.
have enough
Yeah,
law
we don't,
enforcement
period.
at all, let
Yeah.
alone to go after illegal
Right.
dumping, and that's true throughout the county. I mean,
And
that's-
then right now with the criminal, it's an effect, the criminal justice system.
Right.
They're hurting, and they don't want to prosecute. They consider this. I'm a firm believer in the broken window theory. If we let trash go, it's good.
That's why I push for cleanup wherever I can. My people hate me for it. They say, why are we gonna do it? It's gonna be there again tomorrow, right? That's why we're doing it. I really want to keep pushing on cleaning up.
But like I said, there's so much money being left on the table. If we had to go to an administrative hearing where the rules weren't so stringent, where
Right.
somebody sits there with a video camera, gets license plates, pictures, and we know who they are, the county could go after them.
Yeah.
Out of a criminal court setting.
Get it, like in Public Works, we have a code enforcement, so make it more of that type of thing. With code enforcement, what we have the ability to do is tag their property. Homeless, it's a little tougher to do.
Right.
And so a lot of it's, how do you get any money out of them? But I'm with you.
But no, they're actually getting caught. People coming over dumping, you're actually getting caught dumping right from vehicles and stuff like that.
Right.
Because like I said, the deputies can't get out there in time. Nothing usually ever happens to them, so.
Right.
Well, let's not get back to his presentation.
All right, sorry to get sidelined, but I think one of our big problems in the garbage world is illegal dumping. They really truly do. And so we want to come up with a system, an overall balanced system that encourages people to take it to where they should. So if we make it so we have our land use fee a lot less expensive, then the haul cost is going to go up. And with higher haul costs, then we know there's going to be more illegal dumping. So as I said, we're going to have a 3-can system.
We're on slide 4.
What's that?
We're on slide 4.
Yep. And we just rolled through 4, and let's go to step 1, collection. It'll be with 3 cans out there. Like I say, the gray, black can, whatever color it ends up being, it goes to the landfill just for disposal. Green is what we gotta do additional processing on, and blue, our haulers in this county, as soon as they get the blue, it's their ownership and they process it. Transportation, saying the same thing, just that we have, one of our huge costs is gonna be moving this green waste around, and that makes no sense to me. I don't have any other way of doing it that I can see. And it's, like I say, it's not just the facility, it is just the ongoing, we gotta handle it so much. Step 3, processing, gray, black, tan container is the garbage. What 1383 also does is says what you can put into that can that goes to the landfill. And we are actually required to do a certain percentage going and looking at people's cans. We will be working with our haulers, that they do that as they go along, but it's not not that great a number, but that is, the state says you gotta go do this.
When I was the garbage, the methane generating,
That is, they just wanna make sure you're not putting methane generating into that garbage can.
which garbage can needs to get the green?
The green will be where you put anything methane generating. So in the green container, we're still taking it at all our county facilities. Out here, it doesn't generate as much, and we'll probably be picking it up. They're gonna do a loop that comes from the Kern River Valley down through here up to Tehachapi, that loop every day. For a number of years, we're gonna keep Tehachapi open, but it's getting to be short life. In other words, it may be down to less than 5 years before we have to close that. We're looking very hard at a transfer station. Again, that's part of our overall cost. So our cost is not just 1383.
So are you gonna, is the county gonna be actually picking up some of these cans, or are you gonna have waste management pick up all 3 cans?
The hauler, waste management case, will be picking them up, delivering them to our facility at the same way they're doing it now. That keeps your hauling costs. We're trying to keep the hauling costs in balance with our processing.
So can we expect an increase from them too then?
Yeah. That's my
If
guess.
they're hauling-
We are negotiating with them right now. We had hoped that it'd all be done at the same time. We could bring forward one thing. We have to move forward on land use fee. We are in the middle of negotiating with the haulers on their rates. And if they got 3 cans to pick up instead of 1, my guess is going up.
Do they require your approval or county approval or somebody for how much they increase that rate?
Yes.
So Greg, so not only is our taxes gonna go up, our waste management fees are gonna probably triple with the extra cans.
I know, hopefully it's not that much. I mean, that's my job, is to try and keep it down. But yes, how much are you paying now, do you know?
I don't know.
It's 60 some odd dollars for 3 months, I think, something like that. I think that's what it is.
20 a month, something like that.
Yeah.
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 We're not seeing a tripling of the costs at other places. We haven't seen WMI's proposal yet. Other places we're seeing it, and it's going up. Maybe double though.
But they've got to propose it to you and justify it to you, and you've got to say yay or nay on
We
it.
put it out to a 218 process where we say, this is a new rate proposed. You have an opportunity to say you don't like it. There'll be a public hearing at the board, and then before it's adopted. So we are pushing from a staff point of view. We're trying to do it, and Waste Management's been very good to us. They are used to being in competition. They're used to doing it. They have no concerns. The guys over in the valley have a lot of concerns. Sure. But we're even getting a group of those haulers over in the valley. I think 6 or 7 of them have joined up just to try and sell to a company, Vertec. They're out of the south, mostly desert. So, do you know them?
Yeah, they're out of Santa Clarita. They pick up all the commercial in Santa Clarita area.
So they're a red truck. You
Yeah.
see them around.
They're another family-run business still. Waste Management's a big corporation. But they have, I'm gonna say they got 50 or 60 different communities, cities or counties they pick up from, so they're pretty big. But I personally, I come, as you know, I come from the roadside. Every single thing we do, we put out to bid.
Right.
So when I came in and became Public Works Director and was handed these contracts, like, you kidding? So I've struggled with that thought every day.
But the contracts do not state that nobody else can come in.
No, they actually state that it's a non-exclusive contract,
Okay.
meaning that we could put it out to other people to join it.
Okay. Thank you.
Currently, we're taking the majority of our green waste that's ready for composting that we collect from everywhere and we're taking it to Mountain Vernon facility. The city of Bakersfield runs it. We pay for it with the land use fee. So that's where the majority of it goes. And that's the stuff that's already been screened, it's been ground up, it's ready for composting, and they're able to handle that. They're pretty well maxed out. That's why we're proposing a Shafter compost facility. Shafter being an area that there's a lot of green waste generated from farms up in that area, and there will be a market for good compost to go back out to those farms. So we hopefully that'll be a good, and we have a facility up there at Shafter landfill. Clean compost is a good thing. I'm all for it. It's the dirty stuff that's going to be a real problem. The recyclables are just the same as they currently are for us anyway. You guys are just dumping everything into one can still. But it is on the hauler to process the recyclable materials. Collection and processing challenges. One of the things that is going to be a bugaboo, this 3-cart system, is you go to a big apartment complex and you try and stack a bunch of bins out there where they didn't hardly have room for one. Now they got to have 3. And then even if they do manage to stick them all in there, the residents don't care what color it is, and they just put their material in them. So also you got a blue recyclable bin chock full of food waste, dirty diapers, everything else. So one of our goals in coming up with this technology concept that we are is that we may be able to find something that'll take everything from an apartment complex, from a business, from a McDonald's, and then process it. In other words, it's a 1 can for the commercial. It's going to be a little more expensive, but it'll help that industry, all the commercial industry, because it just doesn't work. Do you have luck with 3 cans of?
Yeah, multifamily properties are a difficult one. A lot of property managers describe their tenants as like 3-year-olds. So
We'd be fortunate. What our challenge is also is they're transient. You can go educate the heck out of them. Next month it's a whole different crowd. So it's a real challenge. It really is a lot of work, and it costs. The hauler ends up having to pay a lot more. We have to pay a lot more. We're looking at some technologies that'll take that 1 can and process it so that we don't have to go to the extra trouble of trying to figure out where 3 cans go and all that. Okay, the how to process organic waste just talks about that we went out for RFP to companies that proposed different methods of doing it. I think I described those earlier. We had what they call a MRF, but it's a where you have a bunch of conveyor belts and people I just can't do it. I can't see how they do it. Stand there all day doing this. And they got food, they got green waste, they got this. Conveyor belt goes by and just do that all day long. They're trying to develop robots to do that, and they're getting successful, but cost still keeps going up. we are, like I say, we're looking at that still, trying to come up with a good one. We say here 20 to 100 million, but it's probably, I'm going to actually say it's closer to 30 to 120 million cost to do that. So when you think of 1383 though, it's not just that lump cost that it's driving up, it's all the additional processing, it's all additional handling, it's all the additional cans that are out there, it's all the whole thing. So when it comes right down to it, when we buy some or go buy some kind of technology for 30 million bucks, it's just one bump. It is a significant bump, but it's just everything about 1383 is expensive. It's a job still. There are a whole lot more jobs coming out of it, a lot more people to be employed. And maybe that is part of the reason they did it, because California needs more jobs. These are jobs that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do. There's also an edible food recovery portion of 1383. We happen to be working with public health. They actually have vans. They go out to mostly schools at this time. They get a hold of schools. School says we got extra food. They go pick it up. They distribute it. Public Works doesn't do that. We're not very good at handling edibles. It wouldn't be good. All right, so how do we fund all this? I've been describing all that we got to do. How do we fund it? And we have various mechanisms that are our revenue sources. We got the franchise hauling fees. We got land use fee, gate fees, bin fees, grants, and recycling revenues. The biggest one is the land use fee. And the land use fee is paid by all residential properties. It's assessed on their property and is collected with the tax bill. How is it used? It's just everything I've been talking about. That's what it's used for. It's our whole system that we do. It's at the landfill, it's at the transfer stations, it's all the transporting costs, processing costs, admin costs, everything. Just some terms: disposal versus diversion. Disposal goes to landfill. Diversion is something that used to go to the landfill, but now they're trying to find a different use for it. Take it out of their use. They start out calling it recycling, but most of the stuff isn't recycled. It's just put to a different use, possibly. We have some slides here that show legislative impacts to land use fees. It just shows that this is something that's been worked on by the state always. They're always coming up with new laws and legislation, and they're all expensive. We haven't raised the land use fee in over 10 years. There have been a number of these in the last 10 years. We just haven't, we've had enough reserve that we haven't come and asked you for money every time it goes up. History of the land use fee rates. You can see that it was $27.50 for a short while, and it's gone up to, in 2021, at $105, and we're proposing that $180. And it's the reason why we're proposing that is to fund all our different costs that we're talking about. It's the whole system. And we'd be glad to share that detail if you want to set a meeting time where we can go through all the different costs. What we did was we just built a massive spreadsheet that showed here's your revenues, here are your costs each year out, and it's a lot of it is just the running of our facilities and updating of our facilities. So what types of things are we spending the money on? Compost facility out of Chapter Wasco. The normal Bena and Chapter, they take a lot of money to keep those things up. You got garbage trucks running. One of our big challenges at our landfills is we allow the public in. The public gets to come into them and dump. When you got people just coming in and you got garbage trucks coming in all day long, and you got to have a facility that's somewhat safe. It's tough. You know, there are a lot of counties that don't allow the public to come in. They don't allow self-haul. We tend to still do that. It would save a tremendous amount of money if we didn't do that. But again, it's very
I would
close.
disagree with you there, because the illegal dumping would quadruple.
Other than the illegal dumping, you're right. And that
Your cost would go, well, Scott, I think your cost would be more.
Unless you had mandatory collection everywhere.
Yeah.
And that'd be the only thing. Otherwise, the whole thing would be a landfill. We're trying to find the balance between hauling costs and land use fee costs. And like I said, the hauling costs, we're in the middle of negotiating with the haulers. See where that's gonna end up. Other things we looked at was, like I said, we looked at going down to 3 regional facilities. But we know the hauling costs would go up, increased illegal dumping. Self-haul would be a disaster and negative environmental impacts. So at this point, we're kind of ruling that out. That's why we made the proposal of how we can do it, but it's on the land use fee. Consequences of non-compliance, why do we bother complying? Well, basically, the state will come in and fine us. And they can fine us over and over and over again. So it just, we wouldn't have a system left to work. There is a possibility that you would even come in and say, if your facilities aren't compliant, you no longer can accept garbage, you would then have to take the garbage, you'd have to pay for the transport to a facility in some other community that is compliant. And that would just drive our prices up even more. Senate Bill 619, that's just legislation that says we have to turn in a plan to them, a written plan, but they gave us a little more time to implement, just because everybody's in the same boat. How do we make this work? So we gotten through, we got another year, I think, to actually start doing it, but we still have to turn in a plan by January 1 of this year. So what's next? We're trying to implement our plan, and it really comes down to this land use fee. We have a plan, we now have to find a funding mechanism. The hearing's January 4th. We'll know at that date whether we got a plan. If it doesn't go through on January 4th, we don't have a plan, we're not sure what we're gonna do. Probably recommend to the board that we go close facility. It's the only thing we can do. And then just live with an environment that is covered in illegal dumping. That's not what I want to do.
I think the scary part in all this, I mean, in the big scheme of things, like I said, my tax bill is already astronomical as it is and going up each year, is the $80 really don't sound like a lot right now, but the little paragraph in there, or little sentence in there that it could go up every year for 5 years, the unknown. I mean, we're already getting to that point where our tax bills, like I said, are way up there. How much more can we afford each year? And having that unknown is kind of scary.
Yeah, and I think what the intent of that was is that we may put a cost of living adjustment on it, a CPI. So instead, it may be 2 or 3% a year, so it would continue up. But what our goal is to not get behind like we are right now. Right now, we're actually, one of our problems is we have started doing processing of the green waste, not for 1383, but for the sake of we had to meet certain diversion goals. We had to keep a certain amount of garbage that we collected out of the landfills. Our easy target was the green waste because it's readily identifiable. We had it in separate cans. So we started already doing a lot of this that I've described, of picking it up, sorting, processing it, and composting it. We've lost $10 million a year for the last 3 years that we've been doing this. We already know we're dropping. I mean, we were up around $90 million in the bank. We're down to $60 million in the bank 3 years, and we can't go below $36 million. So even without adopting a single new thing with 1383, we have serious problems in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I went through the legislation. I thought it was interesting too that it refers to the Constitution of California that they're required to reimburse agencies when they impose things like this, but then they said they're not going to because the local authority has the well, the local districts have the authority to levy charges. I thought that was interesting. I did a real quick calculation. Looking at this, it looks like it's going to raise about $22 million additional per year in these fees. And that was based really roughly on population estimates I got from July 2019. There were almost 303 housing units, 303,000 housing units in California, and I did a WAG that 20% of them would be 5 or more residential units, so I just multiplied all that up. So it's $22 million a year. And there's no doubt in my mind that something's going to have to go up to pay for all of this stuff and everything. But what I was just kind of looking for is some kind of analysis or whatever that justifies $22 million a year versus whatever the other amounts might be, or something like that.
And what you did is a reasonable way of looking at it. We haven't done it that way. What we did was we just listed, these are the things we have to do, and then ran different scenarios of if we increase it this much, increase it this much, increase it this much, until we got the bottom line staying above that $36 million that we have to hang on to. So it's a little different approach,
Okay.
but it's really the same thing, and it's really, what you're seeing is about a $20 million increase. Like I say, right off the bat, 10 of that is what we were already dropping. So then it's another 10 million money to spend on the things we need to. Yeah, that sounds about right. Really does.
I guess one other question. Will any of these processes result in income? I mean, you know, we hear a lot of things all the time about do this or compost or do this and you'll end up with fertilizer that you could sell or something. I mean, not an individual, but some of these processes, are there any out there that are going to have any meaningful income that could help offset some increases?
Well, the one that has caught our eye that we haven't pursued 100% yet, but it is one that we're still looking at, a process called Waste Away. And it's a group of guys that are out of Tennessee, and they started a business. The government approached them and said, we need somebody that can grind up spent casings from big ammo. Right, so they got all this brass, some of it we say is spent, some of it's not. So they built a very tough grinder. You throw in brass, you throw in old ammo, it grinds it up. So that's, they approached them and said, can you do something about garbage? Let's try it. So they have developed a machine that grinds it up. That's not any big deal. Anybody can come up with a grinder. They come up with this ground material and they put it into a magic box at the end of the line. And it's called, they call it a hydrolyzer. It's really, what do you call the things that you heat up and pressure up surgical tools? It's a autoclave. It's a very big autoclave. The garbage goes in, they shut the door, they pressure it up, high pressure steam, they pop off they open it, and the steam all runs out. But what happens is you got organic material in there, you got bacteria, you got funguses, you got organics. When it becomes pressured up and you let it off, it pops. It's completely sterile when they're done. It's a process. It comes out the other end. It looks like fluff, and the material is sterile. And they developed it. They're going, okay, now what do we use this for? And they initially thought, well, we'll sell it to nurseries to use as bedding material. Good. And they realized that they didn't have that much of a need for it. So they've actually identified the very best purpose they can use it for is a fuel source. It has almost as much fuel value as coal. It burns cleaner than coal. And if we set something like this up near Bena, we have 2 cement kilns that still use coal. So we're looking at that because it actually has a residual value of about $45 a ton.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's real.
Wow.
So,
Could that be used for electrical generation?
and it can be used as it's any fuel. I mean, our trouble is it does still have some emissions. It would probably have more than, say, natural gas, but it has less than coal. So if you got a coal-fired electrical plant, absolutely. And that's where they started trying to market it to initially on the East Coast, but then they realized these cement kilns are using a tremendous amount of coal still. And we have two of them within striking distance up there. One has even signed a letter of intent that they would buy anything we could produce.
Wow.
Thing through, you take the fluff, you run it through a machine that heats it up, melts it, puts it up. You get that plastic lumber. It was good. We got some benches out in front of our place made me the whole thing. So we're interested. We're trying to get it through the state to see if they'll buy off on it. If they do, it's probably a go if we make this happen. But it's one of the few things, it solves our problem, meets the state's requirements. It helps our industry because they are under mandates to get stuff other than coal. We can take, instead of having 3 carts at our commercial businesses, we can go to 1, because what we do is we focus that stuff which is too dirty to compost, we go straight to here.
Why can't you do that for residential?
The throughput isn't great enough to handle all of it. We handle about 1 million tons, let's see. I think it's about 1,000, I don't remember the numbers, but it would take several of these to do it for the residential. And it's just like, and maybe we'll get there, but we want to try one to start with.
Just off the top of your head, how many residential properties do we have in Kern County?
Was it 300 something?
Well, it said housing units, as of July 1st, 2019, 302,898.
Yeah.
So, in their, their disposition or whatever, division of fees are for 1 to 4 residential units per parcel or 5 or more per parcel. And so I wagged 20% or 5 or
Right.
more and multiplied the two numbers out times this and came out with $22 million a year
Yeah.
for the increased amount. So.
About 300,000 residences. A little more. So it's
When will you know more about that?
our timetable now is that we're out in the middle of this 218 process. January 4th, we'll take it before the Board of Supervisors. That's when people can mail in their votes one way or another. And then hopefully we'll get a decision that day. And then if we get the decision and move ahead, then we will go and really knock on the door of the state and say, you can allow us to do this.
Yeah.
And if they say, yeah, we'll do it.
Which agency do you have to get the Mother May off of?
It is this CRC, isn't it? California Recycling, what do they call them?
Power cycle.
Cal Recycling.
Calvary Cycle?
Yeah, they have to agree that it is diversion and a usable material. But the fact that we can use it for so many things, it seems like it'd be a no-brainer, but they don't make decisions very fast.
What?
Yeah, imagine.
I'm shocked.
I know. It's like, I want to see it in my lifetime, all right? So with that, I'll say, are there any questions from the gang here?
And you were saying part of the job of the waste management, when they come and they're going to start looking in the trash, making
Yeah.
sure. Is there going to be any fines or penalties for people who are abusing it, not following?
I think so. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think the first time you get tagged and say you're not supposed to do that, and then it progresses from there. So.
Dump it back in your yard.
No, this is all good. My only fear of this is we're tackling, the trash and all that. But once we start getting fines and we start making it more expensive, if we don't tackle the illegal dumping, stay on top of that, make that a priority too, kind of bring it on the same level, that's going to get out of hand because people aren't going to want to say, hey, you know what, screw this, I'm getting tagged for not putting my trash in right, and I'll just take it out in the desert and risk dumping it. That's my fear.
And I spend probably more time on illegal dumping than I do the rest of this because I have the same passion. I just see it and I just can't believe it. And I see that and I see the homeless, and the homeless are the anti of what we're trying to do. I mean, they go take it out of the garbage cans and spread it around as far as
Now,
they
I mean, what would be, for the county, and it seemed like the cost would outweigh, but putting some, you know, around where the homeless are, just putting some big dumpsters out there and.
And I asked that very question, why aren't we just doing this? You
Yeah.
can't. You basically have to have it as a manned site, it's a manned, then it becomes a transfer station, then you have to get permitting for it, and it's just incredible. That's the way it used to work, and it still could, as far as I'm concerned. But we've set up temporary transfer stations, and I think we did some good. You
I
know,
think
if
we
you
need
get
it down
into
here.
But if you put a dumpster out there, you turn it into a condo.
No, what did we, you know, I mean,
Pluses
when we
and
had to
minuses
waste
about doing
the excess garbage day the other day, I heard I mean, you had so much, people bringing so much stuff
Yeah.
in to that was a success.
And that was a whole, a Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving weekend, and it was crazy.
so if we had places like that set up around town, I think that would help tremendously.
We can do what we call events, where it's like, bring whatever you got, and we'll have it ready to be, handled. And we do those, and COVID slowed us down on them a little bit, but we're starting to fire them back up again. They're very successful, they truly are.
There's the hazardous ones out at Mojave Airport every once
Yep.
in a while too.
Yeah,
And that's what we're really trying to promote and everything, but even when I talk to those guys out there, there's not very many folks from Rosamond that go there. So,
that's an interesting thing, because, we have, in the Metro Bakersfield area, we have the facility that handles, when we have those events, we bring it to them, they handle it there. And again, it's no cost, it's a very good service, very expensive service. It costs us, I think, about $6 million a year to run that facility.
Wow.
But
Yeah, limited.
we need to have more events out in these outlying areas. They can collect that, because that's the stuff that you don't want just dumped out there. I mean, you don't want anything dumped, but that stuff is
No,
special.
if anything really bad, I just take it to Randy's. He's never around.
I'm gonna work on a waiver with waste management to take toxic waste at our dumps. I'm gonna start working on a waiver.
And it's just amazing, since it's free to go to our landfill, and people still.
I know, I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
And I even called Ripley, he doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
There just needs to be some bite in it.
I know.
There's no bite in it right now, so.
Well,
We have,
And besides
Complain-
fines, maybe public flogging.
yeah, complain
Right,
to Zach.
well,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I think the
we need the
county is
gallows
gonna
out
have to
front of
implement
the
something to do
building.
that.
If somebody had their truck confiscated and auctioned off for
Yeah.
illegal dumping, that happened
Right.
a couple times, and the word's gonna get out,
Word will get out.
Yeah, if the Board of Supervisors could enact something.
You know what, and that's how LA County tackled the prostitute problem in Lancaster. They would confiscate the vehicles of the
Okay.
people pulling up.
It has to have
Is
some
that
kind
what happened to
of
you?
property value.
Huh?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
yeah.
Zach and company need to try and
Yeah,
pursue
well, I
that.
mean, bring it to his attention. I keep trying, because I have a passion for it.
So could code enforcement actually ticket them, just a flat fee, flat rate ticket? Is that
Yeah,
something
I'm
that
trying to
could be
think of
done?
that. They did pass something, and I think they took it up from a couple $100s to maybe $1,000, but, and the thing, our code that we have really depends on, our whole process that we do code depends on there being a property that we can touch and hit for the value of whatever the thing is. The vehicle would be something, but a lot of it is just guys dragging a grocery cart along, and it falls over, and they don't even stop, they just keep going, It's like,
But being
well,
so close to LA County where they can't dump, that's a lot of the problem too. They come over here and.
well, and because LA County, their landfills charge
Oh,
at
yeah.
the gate.
Mhm.
And so, residential, I'm sure they are trying to get over
Yeah.
here. Wow, not good.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you for
Yeah,
coming
thank
out.
you so
Well, I
much.
appreciate the time, I really
And
do.
we'd like you to come more often. You
I-
talk about once a year, twice a year would be good for us.
Are you still in charge of roads too?
Yes, I'm still in charge of roads.
Good job.
Yeah.
What's it gonna
Down
take?
Avenue Way, one day you'll see a pothole next. They're quick. You guys are doing a
I'm
fantastic
glad to
job
hear
on
that.
that.
Do you remember along Avenue Way where the dividing line as far as maintaining it is between LA
Yeah,
County and
yeah,
Kern
yeah,
County?
Yeah.
I can never remember. Is it 90th Street West? Or who's got which piece? Do you remember off the top of your head? If you don't, it's okay, but
No, you got Avenue A that runs out, where does it stop? in Kern
170th. on the west.
Don't know that edge, what the,
It's after 170.
Yeah, but my understanding is, like, part of it is LA County and part of it is Kern County, even though it
Right.
separates them both, but they have
Right.
different responsibilities
Yeah.
of two different road departments.
Yeah,
I just could
there's
never
a
remember.
section there where part of Kern County is actually south of Avenue A also.
I know that.
There's
Yeah.
a chunk of.
I know they
chunk of
divvy up
land.
the responsibility for maintenance of it, the
Right.
potholes and
right,
stuff, I
and
just
there's
couldn't
areas
remember.
that we're in Ventura County, LA County, and we have, they'll take care of this, we'll take care of that.
They-
There's a piece up there, I don't know if you know it, it's that off-ramp. It leads to Fraser Park. There's a big Flying J truck
Oh,
stop
yeah,
right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the road went to hell, absolute hell there. And it's like, well, that's LA County. The Flying J's in LA County, they built it, the road there's in LA County. And I found out it wasn't. It's like, oopsie.
Was yours? No.
Damn it.
That's hate as that happens.
Question then, dirt roads,
Yeah.
who's responsible for those?
It depends. I know that we have about 300 miles of dirt roads that belong to us. The rest do not. They're like driveways at that point, as long
Okay,
as
so
the
how would
property
I
owner.
find out?
Send me an email with, like I say, there's about 300 miles of all. They have to be adopted into the county main. Just stuff we're living with.
What's your email address?
C. Pope
cpope
at kerncounty.com.
county.com. Okay, because I've got a question on the road too.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
Craig, given your long-standing experience in government and fees, etc., when likely would a Rosamond homeowner feel an increase from this procedure?
If-
22, 23,
Yeah,
25?
If we are successful in getting a new fee passed by the board on January 4th, it'll take effect July 1, so your next tax bill, which would be a year from now, would be whenever you pay your tax. Most people do a little bit in December, a little bit in April, or something like that. That's when
So December 22, probably,
the first piece of it.
okay.
Guys are killing me on those taxes.
Oh, all of us.
Yeah, but they're not as high as LA County.
Right. Well, the garbage fees aren't either. I mean, we're trying very hard to keep it, we look around and try and keep it at the lower end, but it's a challenge. All right?
All right.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Okay.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. Sorry we didn't have a forum where we could take and come up with something and say, this is how we feel, but maybe we'll work out something between now and January 4th where we can do that. But certainly, each of us can individually write a letter. I sometimes think that if you write a letter in longhand, rather than using a computer, it catches people's eyes because people don't do it anymore. They don't write letters.
Sure.
And whenever you get one, you want to stop and check this out because whoever takes the time to write like a 4 or 5 page letter in longhand, they're not happy. And it might be some good stuff in there to learn from.
Thank you for setting up the meeting and getting Mr. Pope down here. That was really informative. I mean, I don't know, I'm not sure what you, the board would do, because, I mean, there's no doubt that it's gonna have to go up to pay for some of this stuff. That-
Well-
the only thing I think it'd be nice to see is some justification as far as, okay, here's what this, whatever it is, $75 is going towards, some details and so on, although there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of multi-million-dollar programs they're looking at.
And the thing is if this was a Kern County program, not a state of California thing, then I think we would have a much bigger cudgel to hit people with. But what are you gonna do? I mean, you tell Kern County, no, we're not gonna give you the money to do this. And Kern County turns around and tells the state of California, we don't have the money. And the state of California says, well, we'll take it out of the money we send you every year.
Mhm.
You don't get away with anything with the state of California.
Now, Bill, like I said, he opened my eyes to a lot of things that are going on, but as the costs go up, with, not only are we gonna see a tax increase, but our waste management bill is gonna go up.
Oh, yeah.
If we don't tackle, if the county doesn't come up with a plan to tackle and put a bite in the illegal dumping, it's gonna get worse because people aren't gonna have the money.
They're
to
gonna
But that is a very good
dumping.
point, and that's
Yeah.
probably one of the things that we should tell the board of supervisors.
Yes.
I would
If you're
certainly
going
say
to
that.
do this to us,
Yeah.
we want this also.
Because they could pass some ordinances and stuff in the
Yeah.
county that would put that stuff into effect.
And the thing is, the way I feel, but $1,000 fine is not gonna slow
No,
it
it needs to be
down.
five or more.
Yeah, or confiscate somebody's pickup truck or something.
You confiscate the vehicle, $2,500 fine, and you do that right off the gut, no warning. You've lost that vehicle and it's $2,500.
You have to go and tell Mama why the vehicle's.
The only thing you seem to hear about that is that they have to witness it. If an individual, well, for instance, if they say, well, somebody's address is on this envelope or something, that's not good enough because somebody else could have dumped it.
But
and all those
here-
other things,
yeah, here- here's
So there's seems to be certain legal aspects of that make it relatively difficult to catch somebody. I guess.
Well, you would have to work that with lawyers.
That's why I'm saying
and
taking it out of the
everything.
criminal, make it more of an administrative, because it's a misdemeanor not come in your presence unless a deputy actually sees it.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing too, I'm a firm believer, if I hire you to clean up my property and you go out and dump in the desert, I should still be held responsible for,
Yeah.
whatever it
That's
costs,
what
because I didn't check
yeah.
out the company,
Right.
it's still my responsibility.
See, that's what they're supposedly, what I've heard they're saying is, no, it's,
Yeah.
you can get away with it because somebody else took your
Yeah,
stuff.
that's,
Yeah.
I don't believe that. Yeah.
I mean, I agree, there ought to be something they could do to make it much more of a penalty and less of an, much more of an incentive not to do it.
Yeah,
We'll talk to them, actually, I'll get on that, talking to code enforcement and see what there has to be something they can do.
Well,
Because
that's,
without a two-pronged approach, this is gonna get out of hand.
I think you're right, these costs are gonna go up and it's just gonna cause more illegal dumping. Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for setting it up.
Appreciate it.